Okay, so today what we're going to start off is chapter 2. And now chapter 2 is now talking about bivariate data. So bivariate data means that we're getting we're looking at two variables or two pieces of information. So for example, if I went round and collected maybe your age and also your height, see how I'm getting two pieces of information from the same source? That's bivariate data. And when we start, what we'll do is we start looking at the two variables and we're trying to investigate whether one is influencing the other. So generally what we have is two types. We'll have the explanatory variable, and that's the one that is independent. So you'll often hear the word independent, and you guys in your sciences will often call that the IV. So if you've done any psych or bio or even physics, they'll call it the independent variable. Okay, so we have the independent variable, and then we also have the other one, the response variable, which is generally the one that we are predicting or we're trying to investigate or look at. So that word predict is a good giveaway for the RV or the response variable. Okay, so when we draw them on axes, later on we're going to do something called a scatter plot. So when you see scatter plots, you'll see often we have the RV on the y-axis, and we'll see the EV on the x-axis. So the explanatory variable is one that is not going to change due to anything else. So if for that example, when I said, say, your age and your height, your age is not going to change. It's going to be what it's going to be. So if in that example, age would have been your explanatory, and your height, see when I'll say, if I just said normal talk, I'd say your height probably depends on your age at this young age, like when you're growing up. Your height will depend on your age. So see how I said height depends on? That becomes a response variable. Often it's the response is what they want to look at or what they want to investigate. Okay? So we're going to be looking at, bivariate, and we're going to look at different ways of displaying it. That's what chapter 2 will be about. So if I just go to this first, chapter 2A is all about just deciding which one is the explanatory and which one is the response, because it's very important when we start doing some other calculations, especially that we get it right. So let's have a look at this one. Example 2. We wish to investigate the question, does the time it takes a student to get to school depend on their mode of transport? So there's the variables here are time. So we've got two variables because it's bivariate. So time is one of them and mode of transport is the second one. And we have to work out what's the response variable and what's the explanatory variable. But we just saw there, it said, does the time it take a student to get to school depend? So time is the dependent, so we're going to say that's the response. We're looking at how long it's taking them to get to school, and we're looking at the explanatory will be their mode of transport. Okay, so we'll see it like that. Okay, so then the next one, if we go through it, it says, can we predict people's height in centimetres from their wrist measurement? The variable in this investigations are height and wrist measurement. Which is the response and which is the explanatory variable? So we've got to look, they said we want to predict people's height. So what's height going to be then? Predict. So it's going to be the response. Good. Because see how they said we want to predict people's height. So if we're predicting, that's the response, and then the wrist measurement is the explanatory. So sometimes we have to be very careful. We have to read what they are saying in that pre-jumble beforehand, because sometimes, you know, you can't always assume one, like say, you know, age is always going to be explanatory. It might not be. If we were talking about maybe, you know, they might talk about an age of a tree and how much bark or something. So it doesn't, like, it could change on what the... So you just got to be careful and read that.